Our Region's Business is sponsored by PNC for the Achiever in You. Welcome to Our Region's Business with your host, Bill Flanagan.
Today on Our Region's Business, no bones about it, a new leader has taken the helm at Pittsburgh's Carnegie Museums, famed for dinosaur fossils and the works of Andy Warhol, among myriad other things. We'll get her take on the opportunities and issues ahead for one of our region's cultural icons. But first, the relationship between the U.S. and Israel has been back in the news of late, largely focused on tension around the ongoing nuclear talks with Iran. Well, what often gets missed among all the political wrangling is the economic miracle that's been engineered in Israel over the past 20 years, one that may actually be relevant to our region. You see, Israel pursued an innovation-based economic development strategy, largely grounded in the life sciences, to emerge as being called a startup nation. That sounds familiar. It may be because our region has pursued a similar approach to engineer its own economic comeback. Now a delegation from Israel is in our region to seek out opportunities to partner to benefit both places. We're here for a conference called Global Venturing Israel at the University of Pittsburgh. Omer Shalit Cohen is Vice President of Business Development at Trendlines Medical. Ravi Madhavan is Director, International Business Center at the Katz Graduate School of Business at Pitt. And Daniel Gilman is a City of Pittsburgh councilman. Welcome. Good to have you all here, and welcome to Pittsburgh.
Thank you very much. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, I guess it's actually, you're not a newcomer, though, or you're not a Pittsburgh novice, right? You've been in and out over the years?
Yeah, I've been here many times. I used to work for McKesson before working for Trendlines, and we used to have a big beta site, also part of the innovation coming out of Israel, up at Washington, PA.
Okay.
So I used to come here quite a lot.
All right, well, welcome back then, I guess. Yeah, well, tell me about Trendlines. What is it you all do in Israel?
Trendlines, it's a innovation commercialization company. We are basically investors who invest in startup companies at the very early stages. We also form our own new companies, all of them either in the medical or in the agriculture space. Obviously, in Trendlines Medical, we only do medical devices.
And Ravi, it sounds a lot like the kind of entrepreneurial activity we've seen in Pittsburgh over the last 20 years or so.
Absolutely. And those are some of the connections and the overlaps that we hope this conference will allow us to develop. In terms of how it came about from our perspective, at the CAD School, we see global venturing as an important activity at the intersection of globalism and entrepreneurship. Both are very important thrusts for us, and we really see a lot of commonality between some of the entrepreneurial cluster development activities that we are doing here, and a lot of opportunities to learn from as well as connect with similar partners in Israel.
And Dan, I get it, Councilman, we're talking Israel and Pittsburgh, and there's a lot of places in the United States that they could be looking at and partnering with. Why do you think it makes sense for them to be here in our region?
So I think there's two reasons. Number one is our history. Pittsburgh is home to a very large and involved Jewish community with a lot of significant ties to Israel. From a government standpoint, we have a partnership with Carmiel and Miskav in Israel, and we've had a lot of delegations and trips back and forth. More importantly, though, when you look to the future, you look at the partnerships between Pitt, Carnegie Mellon, and UPMC, the announcements made in recent weeks for research and development and venture capital. It's exactly what Israel's been doing for 20 years. Big data management, biotech, pharmaceutical, robotic medicine, all the things Pittsburgh's economy can and should be based on and will be based on in the 21st century is what Israel's been doing since the 1980s and even earlier in some cases.
I mean, I got to ask you, how did it come about in Israel? I mean, what began to happen there? How did you plant the seed to sort of create this kind of activity?
Are you talking about the show, or are you talking about innovation?
The innovation business, the kind of companies you invest in. It sounds like this was all hatched at some point over the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, so I think Israel is a pretty interesting environment. First of all, a lot of people, entrepreneurs, because many people came to Israel as immigrants. They had to start from fresh. So that by itself creates an entrepreneurial environment. The government invests a lot in R&D. I think Israel is the #1 in R&D spending. It's like 5% out of the GDP. #1 in research in the whole world, in the quality of research. And also the government formed these special organizations called incubators, which help promote startups. They fund them and also partner them with business partners who help these companies grow at the very early stages. So, it created kind of an environment where a startup can grow And this by itself created a community and an environment for more and more startups, because you know everybody has a neighbor or a friend or a brother who had a startup, who had an exit. So that, you know, by itself create a lot of an ecosystem for people to build their own startups.
Yeah, well, we hear that story in the Silicon Valley. That's the myth there. That was Pittsburgh a century ago. We've been trying to rekindle that same spirit here in recent years.
Absolutely, and I think what's really amazing is that even in successful clusters, whether it be Silicon Valley or Herzliya or now Pittsburgh, there is a tendency to think about entrepreneurship as being a local phenomenon, you know, where the capital is local, the talent is local, the markets are local, etc. But what we are seeing at a slightly different level is that the connections between these clusters becomes very, very important. So just like capital flows across borders, talent flows across borders, there's really no reason why entrepreneurship as a skill should also not be global. And I think those are some of the kinds of things that are represented in this conference.
Councilman, I wonder, the Pittsburgh then, I would think, you would be a good soft landing for an Israeli company interested in the United States, or vice versa, going the other way, right?
Absolutely, and the money has gone in both directions. There's been investment from Israel into the region. There's certainly been investment from Pittsburgh and UPMC into companies in Israel. What we haven't done so far successfully is a little bit more of the talent, the actual jobs, and some of the entrepreneurial spirit and coordination and sharing. Thankfully, there's people like Professor Paul Harper at Pitt who have really led the charge on this. We have a consul general from Israel who's in town for this conference and been a very active leader in Pittsburgh, all recognizing that a more official trade agreement, so to speak, a modern-day trade agreement, not the traditional kind, can actually be formulated.
Yeah, well, Mayor, I wonder, you obviously know the region a little bit. Are you looking for those kinds of opportunities? That's part of what you're going to be doing here while you're in town the next few days?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, again, we're really appreciative of Professor Paul Harper who put this thing together. You need the right people to be able to create connections, and you know, at the end of the day, it's people connecting with people and creating the platform to develop these connections and to be able to leverage each area. Also, there are some big companies here which are very interesting for Israeli companies to collaborate, like McKesson, as I said earlier, like Philips Healthcare, Respironics, like Bayer Healthcare. So all of them are, you know, good partnership opportunities for Israeli companies.
Well, really exciting. Congratulations on building these bridges. We'll see where it can lead. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, the new leader of the Carnegie Museums on the future of one of our region's true cultural icons. Stay with us.